Where there's smoke, there's fire, and the Rams continue to be linked to a particular player and position in the first round of this year's draft in certain mock drafts. We're going to say and talk about if it's a smart idea for the Rams to take this particular player. We're also going to say and talk about, look, the Rams have had a great offseason so far, but there are still some concerns about the Rams, especially when we're talking about the future of the Rams. So we're going to say and talk about all that and much more on today's episode of the Rams Digest. I'm your host, Joshua Giron. Remember, if you guys are not subscribed to the channel, do me a favor, press that subscribe button now, as 73.2% of you guys are watching the videos, but you're still not subscribed to the channel. So do me a favor, press that subscribe button so you don't miss any daily Rams content here at the Rams Digest. First things first, let's get into this first bit of news here as we were sitting and talking about a tight end in round one of certain mock drafts. Now, the reason why we're bringing this up again, we've talked about this particular player and this particular position in this year's draft, just because a lot of mock drafts continue to mock the Rams taking this specific position when we're talking about the tight end position. But ultimately, does this mean the Rams are really kind of locked in on taking this particular player or position? I don't know. Like I said at the top of the episode, where there's smoke, there's fire, and there continues to be talk about the Rams taking a tight end in the first round. Here comes another report here. The Rams reach for tight end in first round of latest 2025 mock drafts. This comes from Jarrett Bailey. So we're sitting and talking about, the Rams taking a tight end in the first round, and I just don't know. It even says it here in the title, right? The Rams reach for a tight end. I really think it's difficult to grade a lot of tight ends in the first round. I mean, just in generally speaking, when we're talking about first round tight ends in the history of the NFL, it's not super common that that's where the best of the best kind of fall out of the draft from. But that's not even really the main concern. Another concern is really the value of the tight end position. I don't mean to disrespect any tight ends out there, but for the Rams, they're in a very specific window right now, right? Where they're trying to win and win right now. And I think that's very key here. Of course, taking a tight end in the first round would make sense in that case because, of course, you're taking a player who you think can really impact a position of need for you early on. But it's just not really a super huge impactful position for the Rams to really focus in on. I think cornerback is a much bigger need. I think linebacker is a much bigger need. Maybe another safety to add to the DB room in general. Overall, I think there's more needs for the Rams that are really more prevalent than just taking a tight end for this offense. Of course, we want a good tight end, we want good tight end play. I think Tyler Higbee can still provide that. He's still on another contract, another year of his contract, I should say. So there's still time to see what Higbee can do. Of course, if he's not healthy, we do have Colby Parkinson, who has stepped up a decent amount. But overall, taking a tight end like Colston Loveland, I just don't really know if that's necessarily the smartest move for the Rams. But hey, like I said, where there's smoke, there's fire. So is this actually possibly going to happen? Let's take a look. So here's what this report has to say. With the NFL draft just over a month away, the Los Angeles Rams have several options in terms of what they can do. They need to help on the defensive side of the ball more than anything, especially after their offense added Devontae Adams opposite Puka Nacua. That said, Nate Trice and Charles McDonald of Yahoo Sports have the Rams selecting tight end Colston Loveland out of Michigan in the first round. Cooper Kupp is out, but the bigger-bodied Loveland can handle a lot of the same responsibilities as a big body from the slot. Tice and McDonald wrote, Loveland isn't a great blocker like a lot of traditional tight ends, but he has the speed and receiving skills to be a clean fit for McVay and Stafford. And so, although I do like the idea of adding a tight end, adding another weapon for Matthew Stafford in this, again, tight window where you really want to win and win right now. I like the idea. I just don't really like the value of taking a first-round tight end. I'm not saying that Colston Loveland wouldn't be able to come in and produce for the Rams. I think if you can get him to go out for 600-700 yards as a tight end in his rookie season, that'd be incredible, but that'd also kind of be the peak of what you're asking for, right, out of Colston Loveland. He's not really the greatest blocker, as it already says in the article, and so ultimately you're asking him to go out and just be a slot receiver for you. At that point, I'd rather just take a chance on a speedy receiver that we've been seeing, right? Golden, right, out of Texas. We're talking about players like him of his nature, just a speedy receiver that can kind of slide in that slot position, who has produced a little bit in college and maybe can benefit from joining a team and being that third receiving option. I'd kind of rather go that route if we're talking about a receiving specific option for Matthew Stafford, because ultimately, when you're looking at the tight end position, I do think if Tyler Higbee is healthy, that he can go out there and consistently be a safety blanket for Matthew Stafford. Will he be healthy? I understand that is a question, but I just don't think it's enough of a question to kind of justify drafting a tight end this early in the draft. That's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think about the Rams drafting a tight end in the first round. Is that something you think the Rams are probably most needy at, or the position they're most needing right now? Let me know what you guys feel in the comments down below, but I just think it might be a little bit of a hefty price to pay for a future tight end. Moving on from that to another position to possibly replace, we're talking about the future of the quarterback position. And the reason why we're bringing this up now is because this article comes to us from Sports Illustrated as they kind of bring this interesting point up, right? So they're talking about the additions, despite the additions of the Rams this offseason, questions still linger for the Rams as an organization. The Los Angeles Rams have made the best signing of any team in free agency so far this summer. Still, questions remain. This comes from Ezekiel Trezevant from, I'm sorry if I said his name wrong, but from Sports Illustrated. And the reason why this is an interesting conversation to be having is because I think the Rams, a lot of Rams fans all together, we've been feeling kind of like, okay, cool. The Rams have gone from maybe we don't know where we're going, what the future is, to now, oh, shoot, we're Super Bowl contenders who can possibly be a top 6 to 10 team in the NFL next season. And if this defense could take another step forward, we're talking about a potential Super Bowl contending team already, right? And so that is great for sure. We're excited about that, but we are still having to acknowledge, I think we're kind of forgetting the moments we saw this season from Matthew Stafford, how much he slowed down in his NFL career. I mean, if we're being honest, he was actually discussing himself about potentially not even playing football anymore. And of course, he decided rather quickly to continue playing in his NFL career. But it is kind of a question that we have to acknowledge. He questioned himself if he can still do this at the highest level, at least for a little bit, of course, considered everything in his family and all that good stuff. I'm respectful of that from Matthew Stafford's perspective, but I do want to kind of acknowledge, like, it is kind of concerning, right? Is Matthew Stafford ready to go 1-2 more seasons? I think he might be ultimately only ready to go one more, and even if that, there is still questions around Stafford next season. And so ultimately, the quarterback position is still a huge question mark for the Rams after next year. The Rams must have a plan in place for life after Stafford. While the Los Angeles Rams avoided the thorny starting quarterback question this offseason, it's clear that Matthew Stafford is on a one-year deal, year-to-year timeline at this point. Sean McVay has admitted as much after the Rams resolved Stafford's situation with a revised contract, sidestepping a trade that would have left the team without an obvious starting quarterback. This is coming from Pro Football Network. So, however, Stafford's 37 years old, right? Next offseason, he will likely be bring either retirement or another contract renegotiation. As such, the Rams could be a dark horse to use an early pick on a quarterback. And I do think that is a key note here, right? We are going into the draft. I think the Rams, as a whole, Rams fans in general, we need to kind of mentally prepare ourselves. For one, I think one popular thing that happens on social media, for example, is people like to talk trash about everyone, right? And so you're going to have to hear it from opposing fan bases a little bit of saying, oh, look, you just drafted your Stafford replacement. Stafford's washed. His career is over. But there is a real potential that the Rams can take a quarterback in the first, second, or third, first or third round this year with one of their first 3 picks in this year's draft. Now, if they draft a quarterback in the third round, I'm not super concerned about that quarterback coming in and possibly competing with Matthew Stafford for the quarterback position. And I don't think the Rams would go ahead and spend a draft pick in the first round on a quarterback, but yet there are quarterbacks that could possibly fall to the Rams at 26. We're talking about Jackson Dart, who has shown some potential, right? Some people have been saying that he could be a starting quarterback in the NFL. We're talking about guys, Jalen Milroe, for example, right? And a lot of guys out there in the draft this year that could potentially kind of rise and fall and just kind of be drafted all over the place, that I think the Rams can find themselves heavily considering taking, maybe not in the first round, but especially in those first 2 third-round picks that they have in this year's draft. It's something they're going to heavily have to think about and consider, because we know Jimmy Garoppolo is not the future of the quarterback position for the Rams, and neither is Stetson Bennett, most likely. Although we're rooting for him, he most likely will not be the future of the quarterback position for the Rams. And so there is still a huge question mark around that position. There is something that I think the Rams need to look into and talk about. I think we need to talk about as fans of saying, hey, this draft, we may take a quarterback very, very early and have to live with that result. Even if it is in the first round, we have to say, okay, cool, and I get it. We're Super Bowl contending right now, and we want to get as many great starters as possible right now. But in the meantime, we are still thinking about the future as well. It's Les Snead's job, the organization's job, still to consider the future. And so I think just don't be surprised if the Rams end up sneaking in a quarterback early in this year's draft, maybe even the first round. Not putting a bet on that, but it's something that I think we need to think about. Moving on, trivia of the day. If you guys have never played the trivia of the day before, I like to pose a trivia question at the end of my Rams Digest episodes. You guys play along by just commenting your guess of the trivia of the day. If you get it right, if you get it wrong, either way, we'll give you a shout out on the next episode. Last trivia of the day, we asked a Rams specific trivia question. Here it goes. En route to NFL stardom, Rams wide receiver Torrey Holt was a collegiate standout at what ACC school? This was trivia of the day number 32. We gave some multiple choice options here. The multiple choice options for this questions were North Carolina State, Clemson, Duke, or Florida State. Again, en route to NFL stardom, Rams wide receiver Torrey Holt was a collegiate standout at what ACC school? We had a couple people play along, so we're going to give a shout out to those individuals right here. Shout out to David Robertson saying NC State. We had Floyd saying I think it was NC State. We had Ronnie Cameron saying NC State. We had James Beardsley saying NC State. And we had Brian B saying Clemson, all caps, a little bit of a sweating emoji because I know he was nervous about giving that guess, as he wasn't super confident because it was the wrong guess. It was not Clemson. It was NC State. That is where Torrey Holt had his great standout collegiate career before becoming, of course, the star Rams receiver in Los Angeles for the few years he was here. And so that's the trivia of the day from the last episode. I appreciate all you guys playing along, whether you got it right or whether you got it wrong. We appreciate you either way. If you guys want to get a shout out on the next episode of the Rams Digest that I'm on, you guys go ahead and play along with this trivia of the day here. What is the last name of the brothers Corey, Kendall, Kyle, and Vincent, all of whom have played in the NFL? Again, what is the last name of brothers Corey, Kendall, Kyle, and Vincent, all of whom have played in the NFL? Is it the Fullers, the Griffins, the Jacksons, or the Davises? Again, what is the last name of brothers Corey, Kendall, Kyle, and Vincent, all of whom have played in the NFL? Is it A, Fuller, B, Griffin, C, Jackson, or D, Davis? Let me know in the comments down below what your guesses are, and we'll give you a shout out on the next episode. Other than that, that's going to do it for me on today's episode of the Rams Digest. I'm your host, Joshua Giron, and I'm out.